Carnival Cruise Line officially ends its plans to offer pre-cruise testing at the pier. We have major cruise restart news for 3 vessels out of the United States. Plus, the US versus Canada. The clash of the titans over whether or not cruise ships need to stop in British Columbia on their way to Alaska. We have some bad news for our friends who like to cruise down under. And if you're a faster to the fun cruiser, it's officially done for through the end of the year. We'll tell you what you need to know. All that coming up on Midships. Hey, welcome to the Midships YouTube channel. I'm your Captain Corey. We're so glad to have you here. Let's get right into the cruise news for today. And we're going to start by talking about Carnival Cruise Line and their Faster to the Fun program. We mentioned yesterday that there are going to be some changes to the program coming up, and now we have an official article from cruisehive.com that will cover those in depth. By Emery Thacker, Carnival Cruise Line cancels Faster to the Fun program until 2022. It looks like the Faster to the Fun program won't be making a comeback this year after all, as guests have started receiving a letter confirming these facts. It comes as the cruise line aims to keep guests protected and is focused on making sure protocols are in place to follow guidelines from the US CDC. While Carnival Cruise Line continues to move forward with its phased return to service, the decision has been made to push the Faster to the Fun program until 2022. In the letter sent out to guests, the cruise line said, "We are looking forward to welcoming you on board for your upcoming cruise. Our team has been busy working on the restart of our guest operations. Given our focus on implementing our new health and safety protocols, we have determined that we will be unable to deliver the Faster to the Fun program at this time." This letter was sent out to guests who booked the Faster to the Fun plan for sailings between October and December 2021. This means the cruise line doesn't plan to bring the program back until at least 2022. And I can indeed confirm that that is the cruise line's plan. I spoke with a representative from Carnival yesterday evening, and she confirmed to me that Faster to the Fun is in fact not in the playbook through the end of the year. Now, however, she did mention that the new protocols for boarding on the ships should give you a similar experience to what you would have had on Faster to the Fun. The biggest difference would be that you might not be the first person on board the ship like previously if you had booked the Faster to the Fun package. However, you should still experience a little shorter line at your embarkation process. And this is obviously due to the fact that cruise lines are now much stricter at what time you show up and are allowed to board. Plus, the ships are sailing at a limited capacity as compared to a normal sailing. So I received something very interesting in the mail yesterday, and I'd like to share it with you now. And this is it. I purchased a 2-pack of these. These are the Abbott Binax Now home testing kits that you can use for your pre-cruise testing. I'd like to show you something that's very important that you need to look for if you're going to buy these tests. And that is right here. You see where it says RX only, right? Right there, bang, RX only. So you need to make sure that if you're ordering this test kit from eMed or from Optum, make sure you're getting the dark blue box with the airplane or the business travelers photographed on the side of it, okay? So there is a light blue option. It's non-prescription. It is not a proctored test, and the cruise lines won't accept that. Now, if you want to ensure that you get the proper tests, there are links in the description below. I am not affiliated with any of them, but all of those tests will work for MSC, Royal Caribbean, Carnival. So in about 2 weeks, I have to do my MSC Divina pre-cruise COVID testing. I will be demonstrating exactly how the process works using one of these Binax Now home test kits. And I do need to mention to you, because there have been some concerns about expiry dates on these tests, and in fact, my tests that I just received yesterday are already set to expire on the 5th of next month. So they have a very, very short expiration window. I know on the website I bought this from, they said the tests were good through November, but obviously that's not the case. So I'm going to have to reach out and maybe crack some heads on this, because one of these tests was supposed to be used in November for my cruise then. Since we just mentioned MSC, why don't we talk about the MSC Divina? There's big news about the ship today. From cruisehive.com by Robert McGilvery. Second MSC cruise ship is restarting operations from the US. MSC Divina becomes the second cruise ship for MSC to sail from a US port on September 16th. That's today. And the first in the fleet to ever offer cruises out of Port Canaveral. The vessel received CDC approval last week following her test cruise, and she is the 11th MSC cruise ship to be operational globally. The vessel received CDC approval last week following her test cruise. She is the 11th cruise ship for MSC in operations worldwide. The occasion marks another successful launch for one of the few cruise lines that have managed to keep at least one vessel operational throughout the majority of last year. In fact, the cruise line has been operational post-pandemic for 13 months now, and that, of course, is true. So awesome news for those of us booked on board MSC Divina. She's back to sailing, and if you'd like to catch her sail away, here's how you can do it later tonight. So the Port Canaveral Twitter feed has posted, please join us September 16th at 6 p.m. at Jetty Park as we wave off MSC Divina on her inaugural cruise out of Port Canaveral. We're so happy to welcome our new cruise partner, MSC Cruises USA, to the port, and we look forward to all of their future sailings. And if you've never watched a sail off from Jetty Park, it is a fantastic way to do it. Now, I would highly recommend going to the Jetty Park website ahead of time and purchasing your admission because they do sell out and it's just a lot easier to do that way. I think right now, at least as of the last time I was at Jetty Park, you had to pre-purchase your admission. They weren't selling them at the gate due to coronavirus concerns. While we're talking about cruise ship restarts, we have even more good news. There are 2 additional ships restarting operations later this week. In fact, on Sunday. Let's go ahead and learn more about that now. Again by Robert McGilvery on cruisehive.com. 2 additional Carnival cruise ships will resume operations on Sunday. After a short break, Carnival Cruise Line's restart operations continue from 2 ports this weekend. Both New Orleans and Galveston will be home for the Carnival Glory and the Carnival Dream when they both set sail on Sunday, September 19th. Now, you definitely know the story of the Carnival Glory. She was the one that was supposed to restart almost 3 weeks ago now until Hurricane Ida changed all of those plans. In the meantime, she's actually been housing first responders and aid workers helping to clean up after Hurricane Ida. But now, great news coming out of Carnival, she will be sailing on Sunday. And that obviously means the Carnival Dream will be departing from Galveston, Texas, also on Sunday the 19th of September. So hopefully a bunch of members of the Midships family are booked on board those cruises. Now, if you made it this far, why don't you do me a huge favor and smash that thumbs up button if you love cruising and you would like to share these videos with other people who you think could use them. If you haven't already subscribed, why don't you go ahead and hit that button as well. We put out new videos every day with valuable tips and tricks related to the cruise industry. We'd really appreciate you hopping on board the Midships family. Now let's talk about our thumbnail story, and that of course is Carnival Cruise Line canceling their plans to offer pre-cruise testing at the terminal. From cruiseindustrynews.com, Carnival to drop cruise terminal COVID testing plan. And we have a beautiful picture of what looks to be the Carnival Vista sailing away. Carnival Cruise Line has dropped its plans to carry out COVID-19 testing at cruise terminals, according to a letter sent to guests by the cruise line's president, Christine Duffy. I did, in fact, detail that letter in yesterday's Midships episode. If you haven't yet watched it, why don't you go ahead and click over to that video next. In a quote from Duffy, she says, "While we had previously raised the possibility of more on-site testing in our terminals, the logistics of making this service widely available to a large number of guests does not make this a viable option." Previously, Carnival's website said the cruise line was working to set up mobile testing sites at all of our embarkation home ports to conduct a rapid test the day before or day of your departure. The need for the availability of this service was enhanced by the new CDC rules, stating that as of September 13th, pre-cruise testing for vaccinated guests must be taken within 2 days prior to sailing date. And as we reported yesterday, we're starting to see rumblings that we're in the beginnings of a shortage or a little bit of a harder time getting your hands on some of these testing materials. So it doesn't surprise me that Carnival's just going to go ahead and say you are on your own, because something tells me they're having a hard time getting materials as well. Longtime Midships viewers know that Carnival is even struggling to get bacon on board their ships. That's still a thing. So we are just going to have to go ahead and provide for ourselves for our pre-cruise testing. That's why those Abbott Binax tests are such a clutch thing to order. We have a couple more stories left to hit today, and the first one is for our Midships family down under. And of course that means Australian cruisers. Carnival has just let them know there's going to be some more bad news. Carnival Cruise Line in Australia announced an extension of its cruise pause through at least January 16th of 2022. Previously, the pause ran through mid-December of 2021. The Carnival Spirit is scheduled to begin sailings in January from Brisbane, Australia, while Carnival Splendor will depart from Sydney. Passengers booked on now canceled cruises will receive 100% future cruise credit. If guests rebook by December 31st, they will also receive an onboard credit with the line. So I am sorry to hear that for my Midships family that cruises out of Australia. Hopefully in January, you guys can get back out to cruising. Now, while we're talking about different countries, we need to talk about this little feud that may be starting between the US and Canada regarding a fairly old and obscure law that forces vessels to make a stop in British Columbia, Canada, before going on to Alaska. From globalnews.ca, in an article by Richard Zussman, U.S. Congress pushing for cruise ships to permanently bypass British Columbia. And in typical news fashion, we have a full-on doom and gloom headline. Now, of course, cruisers still want to go to British Columbia, Canada, but right now it's a little bit difficult. Alaska Congressman Don Young has introduced legislation that, if passed, would allow cruise ships to permanently skip ports in British Columbia. Young, a Republican serving his 25th term in the House of Representatives, is pushing for a law that would allow ports or land owned by tribes or Alaskan Native corporations to satisfy the Passenger Vessel Services Act's foreign stop requirements. Currently, under the PVSA, large foreign-flagged passenger vessels, like cruise ships, are not permitted to make consecutive U.S. port stops without a foreign stop in between. For the 2021 cruise ship season, cruises were exempted from stopping in Canada on voyages between Seattle and Alaska due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And I can understand the author's concern here. Obviously, Canada has been a little bit more strict in their COVID response than we have been here in the United States. And they definitely have some major economic interests in cruise ships continuing to stop in their ports. And we have a quote from Mr. Young: "With new tools for economic development and prosperity, I believe Alaska can come back stronger than ever before. When the chapter about the COVID pandemic is written in Alaska's history, it will be remembered as a time of resilience, shared sacrifice, and the never give up spirit that lives within all Alaskans." Young says the pandemic exposed critical vulnerabilities in Alaska's economy, which required emergency action to save a portion of the 2021 summer cruise season. The Canadian tourism economy has benefited by the American law that forces cruise ships and companies to either start in Vancouver or stop in Victoria on the way from Seattle to Alaska. The industry is worth more than $4 billion for the Canadian economy. Now, with all this said, the US government did in fact try to work with the Canadian government to put in place what was considered a technical stop in Canada on their way to Alaska. So it's not like the US didn't at least reach out a small olive branch to our cruise family up north. The Canadian government rejected a request from the United States for a technical stop along the coast to avoid the temporary legislation that was eventually passed. Victoria and Vancouver are preparing for cruise ships to come back in the spring. So what do you guys think? I'd love to hear your comments below about this particular situation between Canada and the US. Does Canada have a claim in saying, hey, US cruise ships definitely need to stop here on their way to Alaska? Or is the US in the right by saying, if you're not willing to work with us, we're just going to go ahead and skip you for the time being? Don't forget, our next giveaway begins tomorrow afternoon. Make sure you're subscribed to the Midships channel so you don't miss your chance to win some awesome cruise swag for your upcoming cruise. If you made it this far, thank you so very much. And until next time, we'll see you on the Midships.